Hello, my name is Hugh Riley. I am the undergraduate program director for the Department of Psychology and Neuroscience at Baylor University in Waco, Texas. As shown in the slide, I hold a doctorate in neuroscience. I came to Baylor in 1997 after a 20-year career in the United States Air Force, where I retired in 1995 in the rank of major. More about my military background and how it informed my Baylor experience at the end of this presentation. I constructed this presentation in three parts. Each part consists of about 10 to 11 slides, and at the end of part 1 and 2, we'll reach an intermission slide. That gives you a chance to break, reflect on what's been said, stand up and stretch, make yourself a sandwich, and then come back and view segments 2 and 3. However, I'm doing this without a written script, which I'm discovering is much like walking a tightrope without a safety net. So please bear with me and forgive me for all the rough parts in this presentation. I wrote this presentation with the idea that you were visiting our campus and that we were sitting across from a table from one another in anticipation of questions that you might have about the college experience in our department in particular. Lord knows I wish that we were having this conversation in person across from that table, because it would mean that you had the opportunity to visit our beautiful campus and meet all the wonderful people associated with Baylor University. In the absence of that personal visit, however, I'm hopeful that you will find this presentation informative and useful. One of the questions that you might have if we were sitting across from that table from each other is, what is the mission of Baylor? Well, as a former military officer, missions are important to me. And as shown by the slide, the mission of Baylor is to educate men and women for worldwide leadership and service by integrating academic excellence and Christian commitment within a caring community. That then begs the question, does Baylor intend to challenge or change my family's own religious beliefs or values? The simple but truthful answer to that question is no. Baylor is in fact established on religious values, and we are unapologetically Christian. However, Baylor has no intent of imposing religious conformity. In fact, Baylor champions religious liberty and freedom of conscience, but simply expects the members of its community to fully support its mission. Affirming the value of intellectually informed faith and religiously informed education, the university seeks to provide an environment that fosters spiritual maturity, strength of character, and moral virtue. I anticipate that one of your first questions might be, how many students are at Baylor pursuing either psych or neuroscience degrees? Well, there are about 800 students doing so. About 300 of them are pursuing neuroscience as a major, and 500 are pursuing psychology. This makes our department the second largest department on the campus. Biology is number one with a few more students. That then begs another question. What are the typical pathways for neuroscience and psychology students when they graduate from Baylor? Well, we offer a Bachelor of Science in Neuroscience, and you'll see on the next slide both Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science degrees in psychology. It's important for you to know that we do not offer a minor in either field. For the neuroscience students, as shown by the slide, many of them are interested in pre-health programs, medical school, dental school, physician assistant programs, and the like. Others are interested in other professional programs such as law school or pharmacy school. And then still others are interested in graduate school and expanding our understanding how the brain functions. And then still others are looking for employment in a research laboratory, for example. In the world of psychology, as previously mentioned, we offer both Bachelor of Art and Bachelor of Science degrees, and many of them, much like their neuroscience colleagues, are pursuing pre-health programs, like medical school, dental school, and physician assistant programs. Others are interested in other professional programs such as law school. Since psychology is the scientific study of human behavior, it makes a great major for law school students. Still others are interested in counseling or clinical psychology programs, and others are interested in other graduate programs like human resource management. and then some are simply interested in employment. However, it's important for you to know that in the world of psychology itself, a minimum of a master's degree is typically required for employment within the field of psychology. That begs another question. What is neuroscience and psychology, and what are the differences between these two disciplines? Well, I would begin to answer that question by telling you psychology is much older. It began in 1878 at the University of Leipzig, Germany, under the direction of Wilhelm Wundt. Neuroscience, by comparison, is considerably younger. It traces its ancestral roots back to about 1980. Psychology is more the molar understanding of human behavior, and neuroscience is more the molecular understanding of human behavior by examining the brain and how its neurochemistry and neuroanatomy and how it subserves that behavior. Advances in neuroscience have led to drugs that combat both anxiety and depression, as well as antipsychotic medications, and a deeper understanding of sensation, language, learning, memory, as well as the aging process. We hope to continue that expansion and discovery so we get better strategies on treat things like Alzheimer's or other learning difficulties. If you were looking at our website or the university handbook, you might note that incoming freshmen are enrolled as pre-majors first. And then you might ask, well, what are the pre-major designations and why do you have them? We want to make sure at Baylor that you're pursuing a major that is in line with your own unique talents and abilities. So there are a series of courses that you must take first and demonstrate academic competency. In other words, establish a certain grade point average. And at that point, you're automatically selected for promotion into the major. Well, we've reached that first intermission slide. So this is a chance for you to stand up and stretch a little bit, consider what's been said, and then come back and view segment 2. Welcome back to segment 2. This segment has an equal number of slides, but there are a few things to talk about, so it might take just a bit longer. But again, I hope that you find this informative and useful. One of the questions you might ask if we were sitting across from that table from one another is what are the specific courses that are required for the various degrees that we offer? And is there any guidance on the course that you should take during your first, second, and third and fourth years at Baylor? Well, on the next slide, I provided a link to documents that our department has provided to you. And you can either navigate your way to them by clicking on those hyperlinks, or simply come back to it later and then review those documents. You'll find there's one on neuroscience and another for psychology. They're both multi-page documents, and they'll address many questions that will address the course we offer in each discipline. And the very last pages of those documents will give you guidance on that second question. In other words, a map of what you should take in your first, second, and third and fourth years in order to graduate with those various degrees during that period of time. These are those hyperlinks. So you can either click on them now and then re-navigate your way back to this presentation, or simply finish the presentation and then navigate your way back to this slide and then check out those documents. Of course, you're also welcome and encouraged to print those documents as they are multi-page, and there's a lot of good information in them that you might want to keep and refer to periodically. One of the other questions that I frequently get from students is how difficult is the transition from high school to college? Well, the truth is it's not difficult, but it is different and it can be challenging. After all, in high school, other people took care of your living needs. People made sure you had food to eat, laundry was taken care of for you. Oftentimes people like your parents were there to remind you of deadlines or get you up in the morning and so on. In college, it's independent living, so it's easy to skip class or fall behind or not prioritize your studies. Additionally, a high school course is oftentimes characterized by lots of graded events that determine your course letter grade. So you may have daily quizzes or weekly projects, or other things that contribute to your course letter grade. In a college level course, you may just have a midterm and a final. Additionally, in high school, a lot of the questions are knowledge-based in Bloom's taxonomy. Benjamin Bloom was an educator who was tasked by the U.S. Congress in the mid-50s to examine the quality of education in the United States. And from that, he constructed this Bloom's taxonomy, which I encourage you to research on the web. And he suggested that higher levels of comprehension, such as comprehension or application or synthesis or analysis, should characterize our educational system. The exams that you're likely to take in a college level course are in fact higher on Bloom's taxonomy, but you may not have much experience with them. Now, let's suppose, and I presume that it's true, that you were a very successful high school student. If you were, that's wonderful. You should be proud of yourself, and we're certainly proud of you. However, it's time to put those accolades in the past. When you begin college, the slate is wiped clean, which means that the valedictorian of your high school class is at the same starting point as the person who graduated at the lowest of their class. The bad news is also that once that slate begins again in college, it never really gets wiped clean again. So, although you may have been very successful in high school, it's time to both be proud of that achievement, but also to put it behind you and renew your determination to be successful in college in a completely different environment with different challenges. You might then ask, well, then how important is my college grade point average? And the answer is, it's incredibly important. Your college grade point average will open or close doors for you. In fact, anything less than a 3.0 GPA is not really competitive for things like graduate schools or professional programs like law school or medical school or dental school. Now you might ask, well, what's the real difference between someone that has a 2.99 GPA and someone that has a 3.0 GPA? And the answer is nothing really, except that one is competitive and allowed to apply for these programs, and the other is not. The truth is also that the higher your grade point average, the more competitive you are. So it's really important to establish a great grade point average and then maintain it throughout your college career. And this is done by very sensibly picking your course load and mixing a balance of challenging and easier classes, and then focusing your effort to do well in each one of those classes. Well, what about community college transfer courses before you get to college? Or what about taking dual credit classes while you're still in high school, or AP classes, and then transferring those credits into the university environment? Is that a good idea? And the answer is absolutely. The more competitive the high school class that you take, or the more challenging the coursework you pursue, the better prepared you will be for college. However, while I think it's a great advice to transfer as many credits as you can, because it will reduce the amount of time it takes you to earn your undergraduate degree, and therefore reduce the costs associated with it, when it comes to your major, I suggest caution for three reasons. One, if those transfer credits were not as challenging as our foundational level courses, and by the way, here I'm talking about not just intro to psych, but also things like biology or chemistry or what have you, then they may not set the proper foundation for the future courses that those classes depend upon. Additionally, it may not be a good idea to transfer courses in your major because you'd like to get to know these professors, how they teach and how they test, because you might take them for those future follow-on classes. Additionally, and finally, you want to establish a great reputation with those professors. You'd like to get them to know you. One day, you might want to work in their laboratory or seek letters of recommendation from them for those pre-professional programs. And so by doing well in their classes, it allows you to do those things. So take these courses, transfer as many credits as you possibly can, but be careful, judicious, when you do that with respect to your major. Is there anything you can do now to better prepare yourself for college? Well, again, simply take more challenging classes and put more effort into them. You might also start to experiment with more independent living, getting yourself up in the morning, making sure you have a good schedule, that you're managing your time and your activities appropriately, and that you're focused on your effort. But I also suggest enjoy your last year of high school. This is a memorable time for you. It's an important time for you. And so take the advantage to do well, but also to enjoy your last year of high school. Given the competitiveness of the world marketplace and those professional programs, you might ask yourself, should you pursue a double major or minor, or participate in honors programs, such as our University Scholars and the Baylor Interdisciplinary Core programs? Well, recently, Baylor modified our core curriculum. The core curriculum are the number of courses that everyone has to take in order to graduate from Baylor. And in fact, we did so to streamline the process, which provides a great opportunity to do things like double majors and minors. However, if the question is, do you need those things in your academic record to be competitive for those programs? The answer is no. And there's also a possibility that pursuing them might reduce your GPA, and you don't want to do that. So if you can handle these programs and still maintain a great grade point average, then certainly you should pursue them. There are other advantages to these programs as well. Oftentimes they have priority scheduling, so you can register for your classes sooner. And they also sometimes have courses that are designed specifically for such students. And there's a synergism that can occur when you're around a lot of like-minded and highly capable students who are motivated to do well. But just be careful how much you put on your plate. Again, you want to establish a great grade point average and then you want to maintain it. In similar fashion, should you pursue a fraternity or a sorority or clubs or organizations or intramural sports or other extracurricular activities? And the answer to this question is a profound yes. College is not just about taking classes and achieving high grades in your college courses. It's a time of growth and development. It's a time of establishing lifelong friendships. In fact, some people meet their significant other and marry someone from their college days. So this is all part of the college experience. And it's just a matter of time management. You need to do things like recreate, like socialize, and even date. Take time to enjoy yourself while you're at school. But remember why you're here and do your best. Again, in similar fashion, the question is, should you work while you're in school, while you're at college? And my answer to this question is yes. It looks impressive to any employer on your resume that you contributed to your undergraduate education while you were in school. Additionally, there are many jobs on a campus environment where you literally have time to read and study while you're on the job, and there's no restriction for doing so. So it's almost like they're paying you to study. On the other hand, as we've already talked about, you have to be careful about how much you put on your plate and how able you are to manage all your various activities. Your priority is your grade point average, so don't let that suffer even as you engage in work experiences while in the campus environment. Additionally, working on the campus will help you establish better relationships with professors or staff, and that's a great source for things like letters of recommendation when you need those things. And it'll also help develop your business skills, your communication and social skills, which is also very important for your growth and development. I believe that no matter what your financial situation is, every student should register for work-study programs and investigate and consider working a few hours a week while you're in school. Start learning to help care for yourself financially and learning how to manage your time and your finances independently and wisely. Another issue that's really important for your resume is community service. Professional programs like law school or medical school or dental school or graduate school are looking for a well-rounded adult, someone who has been engaged in the community and takes an active role in helping the community. And Lord knows many of our communities need volunteers. Additionally, volunteerism is a great way to get to know your community better, to feel a sense of productive achievement, and a sense of pride in your life. So take the time to volunteer. I'll tell you a secret. I've known a lot of volunteers, and it's almost as if they have a secret they don't want to share. They get a little selfish about how good they feel about what they're doing and the work that they're pursuing. It's a great way to be a better human being, to contribute to a community, to make our world a better place. So consider and investigate the opportunities for volunteerism. I don't think you'll be disappointed by doing so. Many students ask about research and how important is it to engage in research. Well, again, my answer here is yes. Regardless of whether you want to go into medical school or what have you, getting into research is a great experience. Again, it enhances your ability to form connections and better opportunities for letters of recommendation. It also helps you establish better time management skills. It also gives you an opportunity to be productive in a laboratory environment, perhaps to have some published papers in academic journals before you graduate, which would enhance any application for medical school or dental school or graduate programs. However, getting into research is a little bit challenging. The world will not come to you, regardless of your course letter grades. You need to do some homework. When you're ready to engage in research, and I would suggest that's probably the sophomore or junior years, you need to investigate those research opportunities. Every university has a website, every department at every university has a website, and on those departmental pages there's typically a Meet the Faculty page. That page is going to tell you about all the members of the faculty for that department, and there are oftentimes links to their labs. When you select that hyperlink, you'll read the articles that they have had published, the research they're doing, an application form to join the lab, and a link to the professor's email. So spend some time reading about the research and the publications they've produced. Fill out that application form and then send a respectful professional email to that professor or researcher saying that you've done so and that you've taken the opportunity to fill out the application form and you would love to schedule a mutually convenient appointment to discuss that opportunity with them. If you do that, you'll find that there's plenty of research opportunities for good students who approach this in a professional, responsible manner. Well, once again, we've reached another intermission point. So now take a break, stretch, think about what's just been said. At the end of this presentation on the last segment, which is coming up, I've given you my office phone number and my email address. Please, as these segments continue and as you generate questions of your own, don't hesitate to contact me. I would look forward and eagerly anticipate your questions and the opportunity to address them. But for now, take a break and then come back and view segment 3. Well, welcome back to the third and final segment in this presentation. I certainly hope that you've found it useful and beneficial and informative thus far. And I hope that this final segment is equally advantageous to you. This segment, like the other two, consists of about 11 slides. And like the second segment, it covers some important topics, so it might take just a bit more time. No more than segment 2, however. One of the questions that's really important to ask is how expensive is an undergraduate degree from Baylor? Well, the truth is, it's incredibly expensive. These are numbers that were taken directly from our university handbook. And as you see, for the year 2019, tuition costs about $21,000 per semester, and there are other fees that are associated with that semester's activities or responsibilities, for a total of about $30,848 expenses per semester. That means for an academic year, a fall and spring semester, you're talking about $61,000. And for a 4-year journey, you're talking almost $250,000. But that's not it. Now we have to add in expenses for textbooks, summer expenditures, auto payments, cell phone, insurance of all types, internet, satellite, or cable television fees, auto gasoline, auto registration, auto safety inspection, routine maintenance, clothing expenses, grooming expenses, dues for clubs and sororities and fraternities, spending money, travel, parking tickets you may get on the campus, ID card replacement, tutoring, and a host of other issues. So altogether, it can be very expensive to go to a university like Baylor University. And therefore, it's a substantial investment in your future. And even if you're not paying for it directly, someone is. And it is expensive and it's directly related to your occupational success. Therefore, you really should try to do your best. Now, please bear in mind, I'm not talking about making straight A's. I'm talking about simply doing your best, whatever those grades may be. It's also important to do your best because lots of people don't have this opportunity. But you can honor those people by doing your best since you do have that opportunity. And then let's not forget Malala, the 14-year-old Pakistani girl who was shot in the head in 2012 simply for advocating for education for women. Given her example, should we squander this experience or treat it cheaply? And then finally, our Christian faith calls upon us to do our best in everything that we pursue. And there's a host of biblical references to that point, which are reflected in this slide. And then finally, your academic performance, along with the academic performance of all others, will influence occupational futures. And the combined futures of all of us significantly impacts the quality of our country. And that's just something for you to think about. There's an old expression, noblesse oblige, which simply means to the noble, there's an obligation to do your best. How should you decide on a college degree or a major? I actually think that's the wrong question to ask. I think what you should really ask is, what do you want to do for a living for the rest of your life? And then work backward. What pathway do I need to pursue in order to achieve that occupational goal? Therefore, how do people reach those occupational goals? Well, I constructed this diagram many years ago to reflect upon that question. And I apologize for its condensed compactness or how busy the slide is, but there's lots of information on this slide for you to consider. I begin at the top with a high school experience. So of course you're going to graduate from high school and earn your high school diploma. You're going to establish a grade point average, and then most students are going to take a pre-qualifying exam for college, like the ACT or the SAT. The arrows below show the pathways that people typically pursue out of high school. So first on the far left is employment. And then following that is a much thicker arrow in the middle, a lot of kids going to the university after high school. To the right, some students go into the military because they don't have the financial resources to go to college, or they simply want to serve their country, or some go to a trade school. Now, I drew that middle arrow as much thicker because right now, the emphasis is on a lot of kids going to college. But certainly in 2000, or in 1900 rather, the arrow for employment or the military or trade school would have been much thicker by comparison. So things change as time changes. Now, once you get into the university, you're going to pursue a degree. The two best known are Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science, but the truth is there's a host of others, like the Bachelor of Fine Arts or the Bachelor of Music or the Bachelor of Aviation Sciences, the Bachelor of Science in Nursing, or a Bachelor of Business Administration, and so on. You're also going to establish a grade point average at the university, which we've already talked about. The question then becomes, what do people do after the university? And the arrows below that reflect those different pathways. So some go straight to employment. That certainly characterized me. I went in the United States Air Force following my first undergraduate degree from the University of Texas at Austin. Others go to graduate school. We'll get back to that one in a moment. Some, like my wife and daughter, went to medical school after they graduated from the university. Now, to get into medical school, there's a pre-qualifying test called the MCAT. That stands for the Medical College Aptitude Test. Medical school is typically 4 years long, at the end of which you're going to earn a medical doctorate degree. Most students don't stop there. They then pursue a residency program, and those residency programs are anywhere from 4 to 8 years long, depending on the specialty. And some of the common specialties are listed for you on the slide, but there's a host of others. My brother is an attorney, so after college he went to law school, and there's a pre-qualifying test for them as well. It's called the Law School Aptitude Test. It's a 3-year journey, at the end of which those students earn a doctorate of jurisprudence. We could call lawyers doctors, therefore, but for some reason we don't. Other students are interested in dental school, and there's a pre-qualifying test for them as well. It's called the DAT, or the Dental Aptitude Test. Dental school is typically 4+ years, depending on whether the student takes a follow-on specialty, like orthodontia or periodontia or what have you. At the end of that 4-year journey, they earn their doctorate of dental science. And then many simply go to work as a general dentistry, others will pursue those follow-on specializations. And there's a host of other pre-professional programs like physical, respiratory, and occupational therapy, veterinary medicine, ophthalmology, physician assistant, nurse practitioner, pharmacy school, podiatry, the list just goes on and on. If we go back to the left, under graduate school, there's a pre-qualifying test for it as well. It's called the Graduate Record Exam. Now, there's a 2-year program for master's degrees, typically a Master of Arts or a Master of Science. And in the world of psychology, those folks usually become what we call LPCs, which is licensed professional counselors, or marriage and family therapists. Others pursue a doctorate, which is a PhD, which stands for Doctor of Philosophy. And you get a PhD in anything. You get one in chemistry, biology, economics, English, math, physics, and of course psychology and neuroscience as well. And those programs typically take 4 to 8 years to complete. And at the end of that journey, they typically are employed as an academician, in other words, a faculty member at a major university. But in the world of psychology, there's a third possibility, and those are clinical psychology programs. These are 3 years of academics followed with a 1-year internship, sort of on-the-job training. And at the end of that 3 years, they earn what's called a Doctorate of Psychology, or a PsyD degree. And these folks, instead of working in a university environment, they're in professional practice. So they're helping people with things like phobias, or anxieties, or depression, or relationship issues, and the like. Now, to complicate matters a little further, one of the residency programs following medical school is psychiatry. So if someone tells you they're a psychiatrist, they're telling you they've been to medical school, therefore they are a physician, and therefore they can write prescription medications for their patients might need them. In the world of clinical psychology, those folks typically cannot, unless the state allows it. And usually when states allow it, they require some additional coursework, things like pharmacology, so that you know what drugs to prescribe, the interaction between drugs, and you can do prescription writing privileges in a responsible manner. And much like a physician assistant, those clinical psychologists that have prescription writing privileges and are working in the states that allow it, they typically work under the supervision of a physician, much like a physician assistant would. Let's talk about the importance of active engagement and taking ownership of one's performance and activities. We've actually been talking about this all throughout these programs, but it's really, really important, folks. You know, active engagement in whatever you're pursuing, whether it's a course or a relationship or a job or reading a book or watching a movie, will make that experience more meaningful for you, and you'll remember it longer, and you'll benefit from it more personally and more effectively. So lead a purpose-driven life. Engage in what you're pursuing. Don't go to the swimming pool, sit on the edge, dip your toes in the water, and say you went swimming. Instead, get in the water, get wet, do some laps. The water's refreshing, the exercise is good for you, and then you'll really more fully enjoy the experience of actually going swimming. So conduct your lives in a purposeful way. Any tips on how to be a great college student? Well, I'll tell you a secret. I was a horrible college student for my first undergraduate degree. In fact, I failed more courses than you can probably imagine. But then later, I understood what to do and how to do it, and I was a great student. And from that experience, I wrote a document. That document can be found at this hyperlink. And just like the previous hyperlink to the documents that our department produced, you can either navigate to this document now and read it. It's about a 3-page document of do's and don'ts on how to make A's in every course. Or you can simply finish this presentation and then re-navigate your way back to this slide and read it at your leisure. I also encourage you to download and print this document because it really contains a lot of painful lessons that I learned and that I'm hopeful that you can hopefully avoid. Any tips on how to make perfect decisions regarding major life events, like picking a college? I have bad news for you folks. There's no such thing. We don't make perfect decisions about anything. We make the best informed decisions that we can, and then we try to make the best of those decisions. And picking college is no different. So take the time to investigate lots of different opportunities, ask people a lot of questions, gather a lot of data, and then make your best informed decision. And then, importantly, do your best once you've made that decision. Well, we reached the last slide of this presentation, concluding remarks. And at the beginning of this presentation, I told you that I was a military officer before I came to Baylor, and that I spent 20 years in the United States Air Force, and retired in 1995 at the rank of major. What I did not tell you is what I did. I flew a tactical fighter aircraft, the F-4G, and spent most of my 20-year military career as a wild weasel. The wild weasels were dubbed by the History Channel as a suicide mission because while everyone else was trying to avoid weapon systems like missiles and guns that were radar guided, things that are called SAM, surface-to-air missiles, or AAA, anti-aircraft artillery, the weasel's job was to attract the attention of those weapon systems, to deflect that attention from the strike force, and then to find the location of those systems on the ground and ultimately reduce that threat with lethality. As a consequence of that, the Weasel aircraft flew at very low altitudes, maybe 100 feet off the deck, at supersonic speeds, dodging missiles and bullets, and playing chicken with these advanced weapon systems. It was a dangerous mission, but I loved it. I loved every single minute of my military experience. But the military actually spoiled me a little bit. Or rather, I should say more accurately, the military taught me to really fully engage in that which I was doing. That a job is more than a paycheck. I really need to feel like what I'm doing is important, that I'm making a contribution that's meaningful and productive. And I suggest that that's a great strategy for life in general. So find an academic home, engage in it fully, and really appreciate your life as you pursue those classes and activities on the campus. You know, the truth is the United States of America is blessed with an extraordinary number of colleges and universities where you can reach your occupational goals. We certainly hope that you'll consider and choose Baylor. But regardless of where you go, we wish for you extraordinary lives. We wish for you to be surrounded by activities and occupations and people that you're passionate about. And we wish for you every single possible success in everything that you pursue. Also, at the beginning of this presentation, I mentioned that this last slide shows you my office phone number and my email address. I'm hopeful that I've generated some questions for you. And if I have, I strongly encourage you to contact me either by phone or by email. And I really do look forward to those engagements with you and to connect with you through those mediums and to address whatever additional questions you might have. Now, lastly, I need to give you a disclaimer. The questions that I've addressed and the opinions of those questions are mine alone. They do not represent any official policy by Baylor, but I am hopeful that they are in fact helpful to you as you pick an academic home for your future. Good day and God bless.